Hey everyone, Jordan with the Young Turks and TYT Politics. Apologize for looking like an animal. I just ran 20 blocks. I think it's 105 degrees, so I'm a little late, but here now. I'm here with Armand from Now This News,
hey guys.
who is not just a producer. He does on-air stuff with Now This News, but we also shoot the shit in New York City when I'm off the campaign trail, talking Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, and all good things. You've done a lot on Bernie for Now This News, Bernie's movement, and other things as well. But obviously, Bernie, even though he's not the nominee, is kind of hanging a very big presence over this convention.
There's a big cloud over this convention. I mean, I am actually very surprised at how much of a fight his supporters are giving it right now. I mean, people are just not happy.
Right.
And they have all of this pent-up frustration and anger, and they just simply don't know where to direct it at this moment. And him coming out and saying, we just have to support Hillary is just not flying with a lot of them.
Let's reset if you guys haven't been paying attention the last, I'd say 48 hours. So Friday, WikiLeaks dropped 20,000 emails. It was kind of a big expansion on this other hacker, Guccifer. Right. I've been reporting on Guccifer for weeks. The mainstream media hasn't been, and they've been calling me and Bernie Sanders supporters and you a bunch of sore loser conspiracy theorists.
Right.
So WikiLeaks dropped a lot of emails written by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, other communications people. Louis Miranda is the communications director there, and a lot of basically political operatives at the DNC. Most of them are condescending. Most of them show, if not a very organized campaign against him, kind of throwing out theories. Oh, maybe we could come up with a narrative that Bernie's campaign's a mess.
I think what was most disturbing was the idea that they were going to use his religion against him.
Right.
Obviously, they didn't follow through with that, but just the fact that they were talking about that behind the scenes, it's kind of disturbing.
So basically, there was an email by Mark something in the DNC, basically before West Virginia and Kentucky, suggesting maybe we should bring up whether he's an atheist. Bernie's Jewish, but he never really wore it on his sleeve, didn't make his religion an issue. But they thought that if they kind of muddy the waters and make him out to be an atheist, it would be like the boogeyman to West Virginia and Kentucky voters. He won West Virginia. Frankly, he probably won Kentucky too. He lost by less than 1%. There were other emails in there, like strategy documents. One was saying, Hillary Clinton's just taking too long courting these young liberals.
Right.
She's got to pivot to the center, which in layman's words means you have to lie. You lie. You become a progressive for a hot minute, and then you move back to your moderate tone. I mean, we could keep going down the list. There were several emails written by Debbie Wasserman Schultz that weren't too kind to Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. One was around the time of the Nevada State Convention, basically saying, "Oh, whenever he gets into trouble or supporters get into trouble, he blames me."
There was also, she was demanding an apology from MSNBC after Mika on Morning Joe called her out and said that she should resign. So the fact that the head of the DNC is now demanding apologies from the media, man, I mean, makes the Democratic Party look pretty bad.
What I think's really underneath all that, she's awful, but why does the Debbie Wasserman Schultz have the clout to call Chuck Todd? I think this shows kind of the very hidden, but to us very obvious, two-directional pathway between our political operatives and our media.
Right.
Personally, Debbie Wasserman Schultz isn't calling me to tell me to make Cenk apologize.
Right.
I don't go to cocktail parties with Democratic operatives. I'll say hello if I see them, but other than that, it's our job to be adversarial to them, not. So the fact that, I don't want to knock Chuck Todd too much, but he's like, sure, I have time to talk.
Right.
And it just shows that there's already a cushy relationship.
There's a relationship there, yeah.
But, all right, so that came out Friday. Then you had, yesterday, they kind of forced Debbie Wasserman Schultz to resign.
Yeah.
Then after that, the FBI says they're going to investigate the hacks. Not so much to investigate the DNC, but their talking point is, the Russians are trying to sabotage our election. Today there was an outcry because even though she is resigning after the convention, she was going to open the convention with the traditional gavel. Now she's out. Now she's not doing that.
She also, the reports say that she put up a big fight. I mean, she was not going out with a fight. She wanted to put the blame on people underneath her, and now she's being brought into Hillary's campaign as honorary chair of the campaign.
So if you thought that establishment Democrats weren't tone deaf enough, let me tell you what happens here. Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigns. I don't know, maybe an hour later. Hillary Clinton's campaign issues a statement. Corrupt Barney Frank's over there. Hillary Clinton's campaign issues a statement, basically thanking Debbie Wasserman Schultz for her service, yada yada, and announcing how happy they are to have her join her campaign as an honorary chair. So let's break this down.
Yeah.
Obviously, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is working for her campaign from the neutral position.
Right, and she was a co-chair of her campaign in 2008.
Right. So to me, the first question is, I'm not gonna stoke hopes of viewers. Bernie Sanders he's not the nominee.
Right.
There's gonna be efforts tonight maybe to throw up a wrench, but as of now, he's not gonna be the nominee. But for a Democratic Party talking about unity, Hillary Clinton's talked about, we have more that unites us than divides us. Bernie Sanders obviously bit the bullet and endorsed her. Do you think Bernie Sanders supporters here and watching here and all across America are interested in unification?
From what we're seeing, not really. I mean, I see a lot of Jill Stein fans out there. We see the comments on our videos. We have the luxury of covering third-party candidates, so we've done videos with Gary Johnson. We've done videos with Jill Stein. She's been in our studio, and this isn't about party politics for these people. I mean, what people are forgetting is that a lot of the people that supported Bernie from the beginning were never Democrats. I mean, these were independents for years, or people that had never voted before, or young people that didn't really understand the identity politics, that are just voting for what they believe in. So if they see another candidate all of a sudden who has very similar message that isn't taking money from super PACs and corporations, it seems like a natural extension for them to just move over to the Jill Stein campaign.
That's like I thought you were talking about Trump. Yeah.
No, not
Jill
Trump.
Stein. Yeah,
not Trump. I mean, with the Trump thing, I do think there's a small percentage of Bernie supporters that are just so angry that just want to give a little FU to the Democratic Party and punish them in the worst possible way. The only problem is that with Trump, you're punishing everybody in the world. Yeah. And you might be bringing the end of mankind along with that. So.
Well, I also think, you've been around, I've been around the country. You look at, most of these people are between 18 and 30. Of course, there's definitely boomers that love Bernie and older folk, so I don't want to make it that it's just a millennial movement. But most of these people, this was their first time volunteering. This was their first time giving money to a candidate. This was their first time really putting their skin in the game.
Yeah.
And older people too, who were very cynical about politics for a long time. Yeah. Basically called them a bunch of, they're all full of shit. Yeah. Either stayed home or, weren't that active. So Bernie reignited a beast. Right. And the beast has been shit on. Yeah. The beast has been shit on. And I went to an event last night at the Art Museum here. Bernie delegates were all over the place. I got on a chair because they were. I didn't even solicit this. All of a sudden, they just start chanting "Bernie, Bernie," and it goes on for a half hour. Yeah. And I get on a chair because I'm a jerk, and I start saying, "What do you think of Debbie Wasserman Schultz?" And they hate Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And I did a few more things, but I think Democrats. You look at how they're responding. She selected Tim Kaine. Right. Who is essentially, at this point, I guess he says he's kind of pro-choice. He says he's pro-choice, but he has said pro-life things in the past.
He's like a Joe Biden. In his personal life, he's anti-abortion. Right?
Like Hillary, he's basically politically is a pro-choice Republican. Right. He says he's against TPP. As of Thursday, he said nice things about TPP. Right. He's taken a lot of money from Wall Street. Mm-hmm. I think they selected him because he's bilingual. Mm-hmm. So that helps with running Spanish language ads. They also like the fact that he is a governor in a swing state. He was a governor, now he's a senator. Used to run the DNC. He's as establishment and corporate as you get. So obviously she didn't feel the need to really tackle the left. Yeah. She's going her campaign already started courting Jeb Bush donors. Right. So what do you think? Is she making a miscalculation?
I think the Democratic establishment believes that Democrats, Bernie supporters, anyone who's anti-Trump, they're all going to coalesce around their hatred for Trump and fear of Trump. And I think her campaign believes that is 100% enough to convince Bernie supporters to come on board. But as we're seeing here today, it's just not enough for these people. Right. You have to give them, number one, I think Democrats are more emotional when they vote. It's harder to get Democrats to turn out. Republicans, they like to vote. And Trump already has a lot of enthusiasm. I don't think there's any doubt that the Bernie campaign was the campaign that was generating the enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is something that she has struggled with from the beginning. So obviously, she's going after older white male vote with the Tim Kaine pick. Maybe some Trump support Republicans who don't want to vote for Trump who might look at Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine apparently has a Republican fan club. We just saw an article in Politico about that. So it's an old school strategic move that is really not considering the progressives.
Right.
And they already have had so much frustration building up. They need a way to channel all that frustration and anger. And we're going to see this week where that anger goes to.
And a new poll came out today showing Trump up 4 points in a four-way contest with Jill Stein, Gary Johnson included. PSA announcement for all of you yelling at me. I've been trying to get an interview with Jill Stein for the last 3 weeks. It's very difficult to schedule with this wonderful woman. I'm working on it. I've been traveling.
I can vouch for that.
It's going to happen. So I'm trying to get Jill Stein, but you look at it, Gary Johnson in a recent poll is at 13%.
13, yeah.
Jill Stein today is at 3%.
She's been up to 7 though.
Yeah, so it's swung. Swing states, Trump has been up in Ohio, Trump has been up in Florida. There's some polls showing she's up. I would say, I'm not a pollster, it's a tie right now. You have Trump, who I was on the convention floor listening to him. It's all bullshit, he doesn't mean any of it.
Right.
But when you have someone talking about, I'm fighting for you, and I'm going to bring the jobs back, and he's talking that Midwest salt of the earth language to Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Chicago, Wisconsin. If you're not following everything he has said for the last year, if you're not a diehard Politico like us, if you're working two jobs, if you have shitty health care, and on, it's an appealing message.
Yeah.
And I think the problem for Hillary Clinton, she's been doing this for so long. She doesn't know how to be authentic. She's had political operatives around her for 30 years.
Yeah.
Giving her poll-tested phrases like, economy that works for all of us, or stronger together, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Whereas Donald Trump, for better or worse, he doesn't give a fuck. He'll say whatever he wants, and people are responding to that.
Yeah.
I think also Donald Trump is going a little further than Bernie ever did. You're going to hear more about the Clinton Foundation.
Yep.
I think there might be a chance that these Wall Street transcripts she didn't want to talk about suddenly leak.
If anyone's going to get them to come out, I think Trump will find a way.
Oh, I think they already have them. It's just when do you want to release them?
True,
also, I mean, WikiLeaks alluded to the fact they are going to be releasing more things.
More is coming out.
I think, to me, what's really interesting, because you and I meet up, and let's drop the veil, we're both fairly young progressive journalists. We don't particularly like a lot of the things that the horse race journalists do and cover. I won't speak for him, I'll speak for me. But it seems like they're still in the bubble. They're not really covering in depth what the leaks are. They're covering, the plot.
Right.
Is Bernie's supporters going to ruin unification?
Yeah.
They're not covering the corruption at the DNC.
They're not getting into the specifics.
And frankly, Hillary Clinton's getting a pass.
Yeah.
Does anybody think that her campaign didn't know the DNC was helping them out? Does anyone think there's not emails out there directly from her campaign to the DNC? Maybe not DNC emails, but so I think the next question is not so much what's going to be the determining factors on who wins between Hillary and Trump, but where do you see Bernie's movement going from here? They're obviously going to be raising hell this week. I'm not going to report, but I've heard some rumors on some activity tonight. Where does it go after this? Do you see them attending general election rallies and protests? Do you see them pushing more towards Jill Stein, towards Gary Johnson?
I think always the problem with the progressive movement is that it always fractures off. It breaks off into many different groups, and it doesn't have unity within the progressive movement. And now, I have to give credit to Jill Stein, because at the very beginning of Bernie's campaign, she came out and said, you know what? I love what Bernie's doing, but he's trying to run a revolutionary campaign in a counter-revolutionary party. They just don't allow for this thing to happen. And what she's saying is that my ideas are supported by my party. Bernie is running in a party where his ideas, his policies, are not supported by the party. So I think the Democratic establishment resented him from the beginning, because he's coming in. He's not really a Democrat. He's been an independent his whole life, or most of his life.
Which they like to poison the well with that. He's not really a Democrat.
Right. But the truth is that's what a lot of people liked about him, that he was, and that's what people like about Trump. Trump has been all over the map with his political beliefs. They don't really care that he has ties to the Republican establishment. That's what they liked about him. So I think the progressives need to find a way that they can. Well, Bernie said he's coming out with some organization to kind of keep everything together, but everyone has a different point of view right now. There are a lot of Bernie people that say, "Oh, I'm going over to Hillary's campaign. We just cannot risk a Trump presidency. I don't care. I love Bernie, but I'm ready. I'm going to go with Hillary." There are others that say, "Never Hillary. Bernie or bust, Jill Stein." So there are even some that like Gary Johnson, right? Because everyone has different issues that matter to them. For people that are anti-war, they look at someone like Gary Johnson who wants to reduce military spending, and they say, "You know what? I'd rather have that, even though I don't agree with his economic policy." So they're going to be all over the map, I think.
I also think the disconnect between the mainstream media and the people comes into play here.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can tell you, I look at polls, 72% of Bernie Sanders supporters will vote for Hillary Clinton.
I don't know where that's coming
Then there
from.
was a poll, 55%, which is a little closer.
Yeah.
None of these people have actually been on the road talking to as many Bernie Sanders supporters as you and I do.
Yeah.
None of these people have been up at 3 a.m. with them doing nice things, not dirty things. So I think a lot of them just are naive to think, oh, they'll come around.
Yeah.
These are not people who give a crap about traditional politics. These are people who are buried with $100,000 to $150,000 in debt in student loans.
Yeah.
I got to wrap it up.
Sure.
Where can people find your stuff?
So guys, check us out at Now This Election. We have our main page Now This, but our politics page is Now This Election. We are here right down the convention hall here, and we've got plenty of videos coming out. We'll have live streams. We're going to try to do some crossover work with the Young Turks as well.
I'll be less sweaty. Cool.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. We'll be back in a minute.